Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Cities Church. My name is Jeff, and you found MidWeek Worship. Thank you for joining us for this episode of MidWeek Worship. I want to talk to you today a little bit about God's condemnation for sin. Awesome, good topic. You're really fired up about this one today, right? Well, we can't skip over this one, because in the past couple of weeks, we've talked about sin at the big societal level. We've talked about sin at the personal level. And now actually what we're talking about is, how does God feel? What does God do as a result of sin? And I really need us to think about this for a few minutes. I really need us to hear from the Bible on this one, because it helps us to understand who we are and who God is when we think about God as a father and how our heavenly Father approaches it when we do wrong. Now, I want you to think about God as a father who sits on the throne of the universe, who is enthroned over all humanity. And because I'm using the word enthroned, I'm actually setting up the song that I want you to sing, because Pete and the team in South Africa are going to lead us to sing a song just now to our God, recognizing that He is on the throne. So why don't you go ahead and sing along with Pete and the team from South Africa.
We've come to join the song sung long before our lives, to raise our voice along heaven and earth alive.
We've seen your faithfulness, your mercy without end, a king who bled and died, a king who sacrificed.
So be enthroned upon the praises of 1,000 generations. You are worthy, Lord of all. And unto you, the slain and risen King, we lift our voice with heaven, singing worthy, Lord of all through this life we lead into eternity. Our endless praise will cry, Jesus be glorified, Jesus be glorified. So be enthroned upon the praises of 1,000 generations. You are worthy, Lord of all. And unto you, the slain and risen King, we lift our voice with heaven, singing worthy, Lord of all. We give you highest praises, Lord of all. Highest praises, Lord of all. Highest praise.
thank you for singing along with the song and just reminding our heart that God needs to be enthroned on our heart as well as sitting on the throne of the universe. Okay, so we're talking about sin, and we're talking about the consequences for sin. Actually, what we're talking about is condemnation. That word simply means being told that you are wrong because you have done wrong, and there is consequences that go along with doing wrong. It's found all over in the Bible. There are countless places that I could go to, but I want to put before you one verse from Proverbs chapter 12. In fact, I want you to memorize this very short proverb about sin and its consequences. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 2. The Lord approves of those who are good, but he condemns those who plan wickedness. Proverbs 12, verse 2. The reason I'm pointing your attention to the book of Proverbs and to this verse is because when you think about the word condemnation, it can make it feel like God is sitting there watching you. He's waiting for you to mess up because he wants to punish you. And that's the totally wrong way of viewing the consequences for sin. In fact, if you have that attitude, and maybe it's because you sat in a church and heard pastors teach you that God is a mean God who wants to catch you doing wrong and takes joy in punishing you when you do wrong, they've given you the absolute worst idea of what God is really like. Now, I need you to think about God as a father who loves his children, a father who wants to protect his children. And I want you to just think for a second about the original rules, like, God, why did you tell Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit? God, why did you give 10 commandments way back in the Sinai desert in the first place? What was your deal, God, with all of these rules? And if you were to just think honestly about this question for a second, you'd start to realize those rules aren't there so that God can catch us doing something wrong. Those rules are actually there to protect us from ourselves, to protect us from danger around us. You see, if you're a parent, you don't let your child play with a hot metal pan because you know it's going to burn them, no matter how much they want to play with that hot metal pan. You don't let your child play with a sharp knife because it's going to cut them. They may really like that knife. It's shiny and that knife has their attention, but you know, mom and dad, that knife can hurt them bad. So you take the knife away from them, and you may even punish them when they play with the knife to prevent them from hurting themselves severely with that knife. Well, God's rules are the same way. And God's rules are there to protect you. And I really think it may help you to understand who God is and how he views sin if you will just think honestly about this question that I'm going to put on the screens. I'm going to actually end this broadcast with this question. But when I put a question on the screens about family, I want you to think about the house that you grew up in. But I also want you to think about God your Father and being part of the family of God. So here is the question that we're going to end with tonight. Why do family rules exist? I'll give you a couple of possible answers. Are they because mom and dad want to spank you for doing something wrong? Is that why they created a rule? Or do those rules exist for a different reason? And the answer to that question may help you understand who you are and who God is and why he has rules in the first place and why he condemns sin and why sin have consequences. Thanks for joining me. Next week's broadcast will be a little bit more encouraging than this one. I'll see you next week.